Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump removing Pam Bondi as Attorney General. What do we know about the second high-profile leadership shuffle in Trump's cabinet in a month? A U.S.-Israeli strike destroys Iran's biggest bridge. The president's comments on the destruction and his message to Iran. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad warns Americans to leave Iraq immediately amid escalating U.S.-Israeli strikes and Iranian retaliation across the region. The UK gathering over 40 countries to discuss reopening the Strait of Hormuz, how they plan to approach the challenge while the U.S. stays out of it. President Trump saying he will soon sign an executive order to pay employees at the Department of Homeland Security. Applause and emotion as crowds gather to watch the successful launch of Artemis II, marking a new chapter in America's return to the moon.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. We have breaking news. President Trump is removing Pam Bondi as U.S. Attorney General. The president announcing the decision in a Truth Social post earlier. The president saying, quote, Pam Bondi is a great American patriot and a loyal friend who faithfully served as my Attorney General over the past year. Pam did a tremendous job overseeing a massive crackdown in crime across our country, with murders plummeting to their lowest level since 1900. Trump adds that Bondi will take on an important new job in the private sector to be announced soon. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche will serve as acting Attorney General. Reacting to the decision, he says he will continue backing the blue, enforcing the law, and doing everything to keep America safe. The president has not specified what prompted the change in leadership. Bondi has also not spoken on the decision. This marks the second high-profile leadership shuffle in Trump's cabinet after he ousted Kristi Noem as DHS Secretary last month. President Trump says the U.S. has struck Iran's biggest bridge. On Truth Social, Trump posting a video of the bridge tumbling down, adding it will never be used again, and much more will follow. Trump saying on Truth Social, quote, it's time for Iran to make a deal before it's too late, and there is nothing left of what still could be a great country. Fars news agency, an Iranian outlet closely aligned with the regime, also confirming the strike targeting the bridge. It posted a picture on X showing a large gap in the bridge. The news agency says this is the B1 bridge near the capital, Tehran, and the longest bridge in West Asia. The president said earlier this week that the U.S. will hit Iran's bridges and other infrastructure if the regime can't make a deal with the U.S. President Trump says the United States is nearing the end of the Iran war. In a primetime address last night, the president also saying military operations will intensify in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Here are the details.
Delivering a primetime address to the nation, President Trump saying the U.S. is nearing the end of the Iran war.
The Korean War lasted for 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days. The Vietnam War lasted for 19 years, 5 months, and 29 days. Iraq went on for 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days. We are in this military operation, so powerful, so brilliant, against one of the most powerful countries for 32 days.
The president saying U.S. forces are close to completing their objectives. Since the operation began, U.S. forces have targeted Iran's military infrastructure, including vessels, missile systems, and proxy networks. The campaign is also focused on preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, conquest, and mass murder from behind a nuclear shield. I will never let that happen.
President Trump saying never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks.
They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future.
The president saying talks with Iran are ongoing even as military pressure continues, and delivering a warning.
If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously.
As concerns over global oil supplies mount, President Trump addressing friendly nations.
So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. Number one, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the Strait and just take it.
The president also said Operation Epic Fury will continue until all objectives are fully achieved.
The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad issuing a security alert today. It warns that Iraqi terrorist militia groups aligned with Iran may intend to conduct attacks in central Baghdad in the next 24 to 48 hours. Here's more.
It says Iran and Iran-aligned terrorist militias have conducted widespread attacks against U.S. citizens and targets throughout Iraq. It added that they may intend to target U.S. citizens, businesses, universities, hotels, airports, and other locations perceived to be associated with the U.S. Terrorist militias have also targeted Americans for kidnapping. Police say American journalist Shelley Kittleson was kidnapped in Baghdad on Tuesday. The embassy says U.S. citizens should leave Iraq now, as you heard earlier.
Oil prices climbing to around $110 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude gaining over 12% to over $113 at its peak. Benchmark Brent crude futures rising by almost 8%, reaching over $109 per barrel. Prices reaching their highest level since March 9th. Despite the surge, though, both benchmarks remain below earlier highs. Those peaks were near $120 a barrel at the start of the Iran conflict. U.S. allies are discussing ways to reopen the Strait of Hormuz after President Trump said the U.S. would not get involved. The U.K. is gathering over 40 countries for a virtual meeting today. Here's more.
The meeting drawing diplomats from countries including France, Germany, Canada, the United Arab Emirates, and India. The U.S. not part of it. UK Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper is hosting the talks. She says the countries are determined to reopen the strait, but will focus on political and diplomatic means rather than military means. French President Emmanuel Macron saying opening the strait by force is unrealistic. He says it can only be done in coordination with Iran through negotiations that would follow a potential ceasefire. The G7 and the Gulf Cooperation Council countries will meet next week to further discuss the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Russia today announcing a ban on gasoline exports by producers. Moscow saying the move is to stabilize the domestic market.
The U.S. says it's making major progress in its campaign against Iran. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper says Iranian forces have been significantly degraded. Here's more.
Along with a new video released by CENTCOM, Cooper says the Navy is no longer sailing, aircraft are not flying, and much of Iran's air and missile defenses have been destroyed. Meanwhile, the Israel Defense Forces says it carried out a wide-scale wave of strikes in Tehran, targeting hundreds of regime command centers. The IDF also says it hit an IRGC ground force base, a mobile command post, and a ballistic missile storage site in Tabriz. And concerns continue over the Strait of Hormuz. The United Kingdom government hosting talks with about 35 nations, including France, Germany, and Canada, to explore reopening the vital shipping route. President Trump saying securing the strait is the responsibility of the countries that rely on it.
In the Iran war, Israel is also fighting the Iran-backed Hezbollah terrorist group north of its border. Israel warning Hezbollah terrorists that they will pay a very heavy price for the increased firing toward Israeli civilians during Passover holiday.
Your patrons in Iran are shattered and will not help you against the power of the IDF and the bravery and commitment of our soldiers to bring security to the north. We will clean Hezbollah and its supporters from southern Lebanon with security control of the IDF over the entire Litani area and uproot the teeth of the snake of Hezbollah in all of Lebanon.
The Israeli defense minister sending a video message addressed to the leader of Hezbollah saying he and his supporters will pay extremely heavy prices. Israeli forces say they killed 40 Hezbollah terrorists and destroyed dozens of their terror infrastructure sites in the past 24 hours. Israel continues targeted ground operations in southern Lebanon. Meanwhile, Iran launched some 10 missiles targeting central Israel in the early evening yesterday. The siren alerts sent millions of residents into shelters about an hour before shutdown, when Jews were getting ready to celebrate the first night of Passover. It's one of the holiest times of the year for Jews and marks the ancient Israelites' exodus from slavery in Egypt. As Iran fired a volley of missiles around an hour before the start of Passover yesterday, some people in Tel Aviv celebrated a Jewish holiday in a bomb shelter. Organizers say the event was hastily put together in 24 hours. It gave people staying in the public shelter a way to take part in the family-oriented holiday. Air raid sirens and air defense systems were repeatedly triggered in the city yesterday as the country's war with Iran raged on outside. And Senator Bernie Moreno will introduce legislation expanding restrictions on Chinese vehicles in the U.S. market. Joining us now is automotive industry expert Lauren Fix at Car Coach Reports. Lauren, good afternoon. Always good to see you. How are you doing today?
Good to see you too, Don. Yeah, this is a big story because it's not just the cars, it's also the parts and the software. And that's actually good for manufacturers here in North America, but it's also setting a huge tone. And President Trump's been talking about this, and now it looks like it's going to become a reality.
Right. We're talking about, you mentioned cars, hardware as well, partnerships in addition to all that. So, can I just ask you, how dependent actually is the U.S. auto industry on Chinese components?
You would be surprised. It's quite dependent. A lot of the software on the center screens is developed in other countries, or it's developed here and the components and the chips are made in other countries. That's why you're seeing companies like NVIDIA producing here. Qualcomm is also producing chips here in the U.S. The goal is obviously to have more components and parts made here. And how many times have you gone to a dealer to get repairs done on your vehicle and they can't get the part from the dealer, so they get it from an auto parts store? You don't know if it's made in China. You don't know if what the quality level is. And as a consumer, you obviously want the safest components and parts for your car. So there's a big mix in not just repairs and maintenance, but also the sales side.
So what really is the concern here about Chinese parts or Chinese software? Are we talking about data collection concerns? What is it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. And that's part of what President Trump had said. Canada can go ahead and invite 49,000 cars to be sold in Canada, but those vehicles, so they claim, I don't know how they're going to do this, is going to say that when you try to cross the border into the U.S., you will not be allowed to. Now, I have heard people say you can buy a car in Mexico and drive it across the border, but you're not going to be able to register it and you're not going to be able to insure it. So remember that even if you own a Chinese car, that's going to be the big problem. The factor is that they collect a lot of data, not just off your phone, but other phones and communications around you through Bluetooth connections, through Wi-Fi connections. And they're also collecting data on your home, what's in your home, and wherever you go. And we have a lot of restrictions on that here in the US. And actually, it's funny that other countries have a lot of restrictions on privacy, like Germany does. But for some reason, they've allowed all these Chinese cars, all this Chinese technology, and it's hugely impacted the sales for their industry, for their jobs and their economy. And so you have to decide, are we in it for our people and to produce cars for our country, or are we supporting China? And it depends. Again, the past administration was all about supporting China. This administration is all about supporting U.S. jobs and our economy.
Okay, so this is a question perhaps many people are wondering. Do you think, by your analysis, would reducing reliance on Chinese components mean higher costs for cars, or is that the price we have to pay for security?
Well, I think it depends on the parts. Quality is more important, especially when you're talking about like braking components. I used to work in the braking industry, and I will tell you that obviously quality is most important because it's what stops your vehicle. You don't want something that's made in another country that may not be of that same quality level. The price may be less expensive, but are you willing to take that risk? And people aren't. And so we're not saying that the software is less quality, but what we are realizing is that there is a price to pay for giving up your privacy. And part of what the plan is to obviously build the cars here. When you build the cars here, it might cost a little bit more, but we want a safe car. We want a car that's not basically taking your private information and sending it who knows where in the world. So I think it'll also help build a lot of jobs here. So you're going to give you a lot of economic strength. There's a lot of companies that have been here in the US, and it doesn't just have to be cars. Think about all the components and parts of everything we buy every single day that are made in other countries. Those are jobs that are lost here, and that hugely impacts our economy.
So let me ask you this. You said these foreign cars could be collecting data and sending it to somewhere in the world that we don't know. What is the difference then? Because American-made cars, they also collect data, right? I mean, so what is the difference between that data collection and what we're talking about here?
You are correct. I am totally against the data collection, the big data, where it collects your information, where you go, how fast you go. That's not just in your cars, but that's also on every single intersection. You've got these flock cameras and other branded cameras. I guess they're changing the names of some of these cameras because everyone kind of knows the name flock. But all this data collection, red light cameras and everything collects that data. Where does that data go? Well, the car manufacturers say that they keep it in order to improve the vehicle. But when you have data being collected by cities, states, and literally every vehicle, that data is sold either to the company that robocall you get, hey, your extended warranty, or it could be sold to a government entity, it could be sold to an insurance company. This is where a lot of consumers have issues. Where does this go? This data can be sold to anybody. It could be sold to China. It could be sold to literally any country. So it's really important that we start thinking about, are you willing to give up all this information? And if so, where does that information go? And it's your information. And so that's a big factor that a lot of consumers have. And that's why President Trump is saying, we don't want Chinese cars here. Bernie Moreno is saying the same thing. A lot of other representatives and congressmen are saying, hey, listen, we're going to put some controls here so that you're not just taking our information, giving us poor quality products, and being able to control our cars potentially remotely. That's a huge concern.
I mean, from what I've seen, the overall ban on Chinese vehicles in the U.S. market has been rather successful, but would it be difficult? And how would you enforce a full ban on Chinese components?
Well, the full ban on Chinese components would be easier than banning cars. As components come in, whether they come by boat or by plane or however they get here, there's going to be, you have to go through customs and duty. And when they see it, just like as if you had a knockoff of a Louis Vuitton bag, they're going to confiscate it and they're going to destroy it. So in this case, people would not order, manufacturers, suppliers would not be buying components from China. They'd probably buy them from other countries. I do expect that China will try to find a workaround, like sending it to, Vietnam, then sending it here, or sending it to Mexico and sending it here. That wouldn't surprise me because that's how they operate. But I will tell you, as I'm on the World Car of the Year jury, and we do get to drive Chinese cars. They do drive them across the border from Mexico with Mexico plates. So they are getting here to be test driven. I know that even Ford has some Chinese cars in their fleet that they use for testing vehicles, but those vehicles then depart our country and head back. So what data are they collecting? That is a good question, but I will tell you, driving them, when you connect your phone, it is a really interesting experience how it immediately connects to your phone without you even saying, let's pair the phones. So this is a whole new level of collecting data.
Okay, so you're saying it's easier to ban Chinese components. So let's talk specifics here. Does that mean if we ban Chinese components, Tesla would not be able to use Chinese batteries? What is that going to do to Tesla?
That is a good question. I know that they do have a battery plant here in the U.S. I believe it's in Nevada, but they'll just have to build they'll have to build product for here, here in our country. He does use Chinese batteries in other countries, and that's their government's regulations and what they choose to do. Someone like Tesla does use a lot of U.S. components. Remember, it is the #1 built U.S. car where most of the components, more than any other car built here in North America, is Tesla. He uses more U.S. parts. So while you might think he's like the #1 criminal in this case, he isn't. He's actually the #1 hero in this case. And other brands, you name it, whether it be domestic or an import brand that builds product here, has to get components here. And so actually that could be to their advantage. I just at the New York Auto Show this week, and I spoke to another brand that is a Chinese brand, and they said they're going to start building products here. So that's Polestar. Polestar had built product in China and in Vietnam, and now they also have a plant in South Carolina. So they're going to start building product here using components that are here in North America, and they said that'll help them control some of their costs. So this might be the next wave. And I think the only way that China is going to end up producing cars here in the US is literally by buying a brand like Stellantis, just purchasing the brand, purchasing the plants and building it here, giving us jobs, which won't give them the financial advantage, because the financial advantage is using low-cost labor in other countries and then bringing it here. In this case, if you're using our labor, it's going to be UAW in most cases, and you're going to be using our components, or they're not going to be able to sell them here.
So Sean Marshall is actually at the New York Auto Show as well. Next time you can let us know if you're here in New York, and then we can do something in studio. But, you know, since we're talking about electric vehicles, let me just ask you one last question here. You know, gas prices going up, right? Averaging over $4 a gallon. What's your recommendation then, electric or gasoline right now? Last question.
All right, well, that's a really good question. A lot of people are thinking about electric cars. Remember, this is a very short window of time, as President Trump has said, and we only get 3% of our oil from the Strait of Hormuz. So where's the rest of it coming from? Right here in North America. And so why are the prices high? A lot of speculators have made it high. The distributors make it high. So once that gas station in your local corner runs out of fuel, it has to refill it. So it's not the fault of the gas station. It's not the fault of the distributor. It's where they're getting their oil from. And so right now they're speculating that they're going to get higher. We've seen this before, where they've speculated high, trying to bring the prices high. I expect over the next few weeks, you're going to see the prices drop back down. So don't jump the gun and buy an electric car you're going to be stuck with for 3 years or more. If you want one, there's some fantastic products out there. But if you're thinking that's going to be my only option instead of gasoline, be patient and wait. There's also some wonderful hybrid product available out there. And there's also plug-in hybrids. So you can have the best of all worlds.
Okay. Don't jump the gun and buy electric. Wise words, Lauren. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
President Trump saying he will soon sign an executive order to pay employees at the Department of Homeland Security. More news after this break. Stay with us.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And Entd's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
Have you heard what's happening at Mathis Home? Our spring style event is going on now, with hundreds of options for your new dining room. This 52-inch table is a great deal. It's just $4.99 in your choice of finishes. Mix and match chairs to complete the look that's just right for you. You can also get it with a marble top or in a larger size for extra seating. We have your style in stock now with fast, free delivery. Get your new dining room and save at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Getting prescription glasses from Select Specs is easier than you might think. Select your frames from our £6 range in-house brands or our extensive designer collections. Then enter, upload or email your latest prescription and our website will analyze it and help you select the best lenses and options to suit you. Click to place the order and your new Select Specs glasses are delivered right to your door. Ordering your prescription glasses is as easy as 1, 2, C with Select Specs and selectspecs.com.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused youth often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no young person is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a young person. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show them they're loved. Homeless young people are afraid and alone with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now with your gift of $19 a month. We'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. Please don't wait. Your gift is the lifeline a young person needs now. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org. Thank you for saving precious lives.
President Trump saying he will sign an executive order to pay employees at the Department of Homeland Security. Here's more.
In a Truth Social post today, Trump thanks congressional Republicans, House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Leader John Thune for their work this week. The president writing, quote, Republicans are unified and moving forward on a plan that will reload funding for our fantastic Border Patrol and immigration enforcement officers. Because the Democrats are fully and 100% committed to the radical left policy of open borders and zero immigration enforcement, he says, which will hopefully cost them dearly in the midterms, continuing, allowing murderers and criminals of all types into our country totally unchecked and unvetted, I will soon sign an order to pay all of the incredible employees at the Department of Homeland Security, end quote. Trump saying that the staff's families have suffered far too long at the hands of what he called extreme liberal leaders, and adding, quote, nevertheless, help is on the way for our brave and patriotic public servants who have continued to work hard and do their part to protect and defend our country.
The president's comment comes after congressional GOP leaders rallied behind a two-pronged approach to bypass Senate Democrats on immigration funding. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the report.
Under a new Republican plan, lawmakers want to fund most of the DHS in the coming days, and Republicans plan to go it alone to fund ICE and the Customs and Border Protection Agency in a party line package that will come in the next few months. The two immigration agencies, though, are currently funded through the One Big Beautiful Bill that President Trump signed into law last year, and the president emphasized this point when he endorsed this new two-track approach yesterday, writing, immigration enforcement will continue and our border will remain secure. President Trump wants this immigration enforcement funding to be on his desk no later than June 1st, though this round of funding will not include any of Democrats' demands on changes to ICE policy. Majority Leader John Thune previously warned Democrats that this was coming if they didn't agree to a deal. Republicans are planning to extend this ICE and CBP funding with no reforms through the end of President Trump's term to completely remove Democrats' leverage on this for the next 3 years. In the words of House Speaker Mike Johnson, we cannot allow Democrats to any longer put the safety of the American public at risk through their open border policies. As for the timeline ahead, Senate Majority Leader John Thune this morning paved the way for House lawmakers to take swift action to get most of the DHS reopened, but House lawmakers aren't due back until April 13th. Speaker Johnson may ask members to return sooner, saying that they'll act in the coming days. As for the second part of this immigration enforcement funding, Senator Lindsey Graham says he already started the process, which could take months to unfold. The last such party line mega bill took around 5 months to complete. But if Republicans are able to keep this package small, there is a chance they'll be able to move this quickly and possibly meet President Trump's deadline of June 1st. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
The Department of Homeland Security is rolling back a major contracting rule aimed at speeding up operations. New DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin has rescinded a policy requiring his personal approval for all contracts and grants over $100,000. The change applies across the agency and shifts routine decisions back to lower levels. However, major contracts over $25 million will still require secretary review. DHS says the move will streamline the process and better serve taxpayers, while allowing agencies to act faster on mission-critical needs. The previous policy was implemented by former Secretary Kristi Noem. It increased oversight but also led to delays, impacting disaster response efforts and contract approvals. Mullen says the goal now is to reduce bureaucracy, empower leadership, and maintain strong accountability over taxpayer dollars. The FBI says a sword-wielding man in Massachusetts is under arrest for allegedly posting messages threatening to injure and kill President Trump. Authorities say Andrew Emerald was taken into custody after agents forced entry into his apartment when he refused to respond. Investigators found the suspect inside his apartment holding a long sword and a sheath. He eventually surrendered following negotiations. Prosecutors say Emerald made multiple threatening posts on social media targeting the president. The threats allegedly included statements about traveling to Mar-a-Lago and carrying out an attack. Authorities say he is now facing federal charges that could carry up to 5 years in prison if he's convicted. A federal judge delayed Luigi Mangione's trial by about a month to start jury selection October 5th. His attorneys asked the court to delay until next year to avoid interference with his state trial in New York. Jury selection for that is expected to start June 8th. Mangione is facing murder charges in the state trial for the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. He faces stalking charges in federal court. The federal judge indicated that the new dates in that trial could be revised in the future. The Trump administration is lifting sanctions on Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez. The move comes less than 3 months after U.S. forces seized former dictator Nicolas Maduro in a raid on the capital. Washington formally recognized Rodriguez in March and has since ramped up engagement. It has sent senior officials to Caracas, issued sanctions waivers, and struck a deal to sell Venezuelan oil to the United States. The move allows Venezuela to reopen embassies in the U.S. and regain control of state-owned assets abroad. Rodriguez welcomed the decision, calling it a step toward normalizing relations and expanding cooperation between the two countries. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the country has stabilized since Maduro's capture, pointing to economic recovery, resumed oil exports, and the release of political prisoners. Federal law enforcement has arrested several individuals accused of committing a total of $50 million in healthcare fraud. The arrests were part of an effort dubbed Operation Never Say Die. The Justice Department said the arrests were made in coordination with Vice President J.D. Vance's task force to eliminate fraud. According to the DOJ, several defendants allegedly ran fake hospice facilities that defrauded Medicare. In the same announcement, the DOJ announced charges against other individuals accused of defrauding a labor union's health plan. Those defendants are accused of submitting false claims for chiropractic services and physical therapy. The DOJ also charged a lawful permanent resident from South Korea in a medical fraud scheme involving fraudulent immigration documents. Several defendants are expected to make their initial appearances in federal court this afternoon. And the Department of Labor proposing a rule that would allow 401k plans to more easily include alternative assets. We talked to the executive director at Unleash Prosperity after this break.
This land, our America, built on hard work, determination, and grit. Sometimes the days run long, but hope, it never runs out, even when the food does, for America's veterans, working parents, even kids. Because in every corner of every town, even yours, millions of hard-working neighbors are facing a hunger crisis. Many for the very first time. In this land of plenty, affording food shouldn't require second jobs and third shifts or choosing between your groceries and bills. Today, you can help change that. Call or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, less than 63 cents a day, to help every neighbor get the food they urgently need. Because taking care of each other is what makes America strong. We're Feeding America, not just a name, but an action. Working with over 200 local food banks like the ones in your community. And demand is soaring.
You go to the grocery store, you spend $100, and $100 is a new $20 bill.
Even with 2 full-time jobs, it's hard to make ends meet.
These are tough times, but when we stand together, we become the very best of a strong America. Please call or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org. Just $19 a month can feed a family today. And your first gift can double an impact. Plus, we'll send you this free canvas bag as a reminder of the hope you're delivering.
When it comes down to it, it's about taking care of your family first and the loved ones that you need to provide for.
Because you're not just giving food, you're fueling resilience for people across the nation. You're feeding America. Call or go online today to helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double an impact.
My mom and dad were traditional Asian parents. Now my father would go to work before I woke up in the morning, and then he would come home too tired to play with me. I tell my son, I love you every single day. Now my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. So I teased him the other day and I said, how come you never say that to me? And he said, you're too old now. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the material things, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious minute or moment.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Breaking news. President Trump is removing Pam Bondi as U.S. Attorney General. The president announcing the decision in a Truth Social post earlier. The president says, quote, Pam Bondi is a great American patriot and a loyal friend who faithfully served as my Attorney General over the past year. Pam did a tremendous job overseeing a massive crackdown in crime across our country, with murders plummeting to their lowest level since 1900. And Trump adds that Bondi will take on an important role in the private sector, to be announced soon. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche will be serving as acting Attorney General. Reacting to the decision, he says he will continue backing the blue, enforcing the law, and doing everything to keep America safe. The president has not specified what prompted the change in leadership. Bondi has also not spoken on the decision. This marks the second high-profile leadership shuffle in Trump's cabinet after he ousted Kristi Noem as DHS Secretary last month. President Trump says the U.S. has struck Iran's biggest bridge. On Truth Social, Trump posting a video of the bridge tumbling down, adding it will never be used again, and much more will follow. Trump saying on Truth Social, quote, it is time for Iran to make a deal before it's too late and there is nothing left of what still could become a great country. Fars news agency, an Iranian outlet closely aligned with the regime, also confirming the strike targeting the bridge. It posted a picture on X showing a large gap in the bridge. The news agency says this is the B1 bridge near the capital, Tehran, and the longest bridge in West Asia. The president said earlier this week that the U.S. will hit Iran's bridges and other infrastructure if the regime can't make a deal with the U.S. And Colorado will be resentencing a former election worker who alleged fraud in the 2020 elections. The Colorado Court of Appeals today upholding her conviction, but asking for a reevaluation of her sentence. Mesa County Clerk and Recorder Tina Peters was sentenced to 9 years in state prison in 2024. She was convicted for allowing unauthorized access to voting machines following the 2020 election. The former election worker brought in a tech specialist to gather evidence of what she believed to be election fraud. She was accused of lying to state officials about the identity of the tech specialist. Peters says the lower court violated her First Amendment rights by punishing her for alleging election fraud. The appeals court agreeing with her today, saying the length of the sentence was influenced by her allegation of election fraud. The judges add that Peters' belief about election fraud should not have been relevant in her sentencing, that the case should only be about her actions. The appeals court is sending her case back to a lower court for resentencing. President Trump says the United States is nearing the end of the Iran war. In a primetime address last night, the president also saying military operations will intensify in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Here are the details.
Delivering a primetime address to the nation, President Trump saying the U.S. is nearing the end of the Iran war.
The Korean War lasted for 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days. The Vietnam War lasted for 19 years, 5 months, and 29 days. Iraq went on for 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days. We are in this military operation, so powerful, so brilliant, against one of the most powerful countries for 32 days.
The president saying U.S. forces are close to completing their objectives. Since the operation began, U.S. forces have targeted Iran's military infrastructure, including vessels, missile systems, and proxy networks. The campaign is also focused on preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, conquest, and mass murder from behind a nuclear shield. I will never let that happen.
President Trump saying never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks.
They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future.
The president saying talks with Iran are ongoing even as military pressure continues, and delivering a warning.
If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously.
As concerns over global oil supplies mount, President Trump addressing friendly nations.
So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. Number one, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before, should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the Strait and just take it.
The president also said Operation Epic Fury will continue until all objectives are fully achieved.
The Department of Labor proposes a rule that would allow 401k plans to more easily include alternative assets. Joining us now is Tim Dosher, Executive Director at Unleash Prosperity. Tim, good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Happy Thursday.
Yeah, happy Thursday. We're almost there, almost to the weekend. So let me ask you this. Alternative investments could include, crypto, real estate, and private companies. So proponents are saying this is a huge step for 401ks, for deregulation, for choice by the Trump administration. Your thoughts on this proposal?
Well, I think this is a response largely to an administration that is tired of seeing the government, Washington, D.C., say, putting the finger on the scale, constantly saying, you can do this, but you can't do that, and doing it because it's just not safe enough for you to do that. And what they're saying is you can say that, but the way that everything is going in the markets right now, you're seeing people invest in these assets, these alternate assets, and how much longer do you need to wait before you just sort of unleash those rules and finally say, we're not going to be held by traditional standards, by people, eggheads here in Washington, D.C., but we're going to respond to what's actually happening in the market right now, and finally allowing retirement plans the ability to invest in these accounts, not just the traditional market account, index account.
So the department is saying that the days of picking winners and losers are over. Do you think the government should be in the business of picking winners and losers?
I think the government should be in the business of getting out of the way as much as possible. If there is a real scare, if there is fraud, if there is somebody breaking a law, I think that is something that the government should be a part of. In fact, this really isn't a law that was passed. This is a rule that's coming from the administration, and these kind of rules are the things that have hampered our growth. What we say when Trump talks about regulatory reduction, this is the kind of stuff he's talking about. These are the kind of things like, at the Department of Labor, at the SEC, they have power to do this. They can issue rules to say you can include these things in the investments. The one thing that was keeping them back was the fact that they were, constantly worried that trial lawyers would sue companies who allowed these assets to be a part of plans if something were to fall through. And so now what this guidance has done, Don, is It is providing cover for companies to say, okay, we're not worried about being sued anymore. We're going to go ahead and start including these plans if people want them. By the way, I'm not really a fan of cryptocurrency. I'm not going to put my money in that personally. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to continue going with my index fund because that's what my wife and I have decided to do. So just because this rule is being made doesn't mean that everybody's going to be available to this. They will make decisions based on what's best for themselves and not what the Department of Labor, SEC, and the federal government thinks.
Yeah, I mean, people should be able to determine the risk that is appropriate to their situation and not be forced to do something, right? What do you think would be the long-term benefits here for Americans? I mean, there is concern that Americans are not saving enough for retirement. Do you think this could potentially encourage more Americans to, to a certain degree, to focus on saving more?
Well, do you sense a culture that's happening within this administration? We saw a couple months ago with the Trump accounts. But that's not just a giveaway to people. Don, you and I have talked about this. This is a culture shift away from we have to look to government, and we're going to start taking things into our own hands. We're going to start educating our kids that the money that is in there is not going to look that way when you retire. It's going to grow. It's going to become bigger. And if you contribute to it, it's going to be even bigger. It's going to be hundreds of thousands. It might be $1 million when you retire. That's the shift that we're seeing take place in this administration. We're seeing the burden be on you, the consumer. We're seeing the burden be on you, the family. We're seeing the burden be on us instead of Washington, D.C. being, mommy and daddy watching over their, 330 million kids all throughout the country. I don't like the Washington, D.C. model. I like the individual model because I want my future in my hands.
Tim, we've talked countless times, and you're the director of Unleash Prosperity. I've never asked you this question. How do you unleash prosperity? I'm asking you now.
Cut taxes, cut regulation, get government out of the way. That is the best thing. And most importantly, what does that do? It helps the economy grow. And growth is the thing. It's the rising tide that lifts all boats. When the economy grows, businesses get more money. They invest more in their business, they hire people, they raise wages, they automate, they bring in robots, they bring in anything that's possible to make sure that they can produce more, bring costs down so people can afford more, and as they're paid more, they can buy more, and boom, 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 rising tide lifts all boats. Unleashing prosperity is about empowering Americans, just like we're talking about here, empowering Americans to do what comes natural to them, which is continuously grow. I believe that human beings will always innovate their way into more prosperity, and government cannot do that. We can do that.
All right, Tim, great comments. Let's end on a high note there. Great comments. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Thanks for going easy on me, Don. I really appreciate it.
No, you're great. Thank you. Cadbury celebrates the upcoming Easter holiday with a giant chocolate egg. Chocolatiers are busy putting the finishing touches on the massive treat. More news after this break. Don't go away.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands, maybe your back or your hips. The good news is you don't need to live in pain. Why? Because there is Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement created from the green lip mussels of New Zealand. Drug-free, non-habit forming, it's small, easy to swallow, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research. If you're experiencing daily aches and pains due to aging and overuse, try Omega XL. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
I had a lot of joint pain, and that slowed me down.
I had considerable pain in my back.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels.
I'm telling you about something that's gonna change your life. It has revived me.
This works.
I'm not a prisoner anymore to my pain.
As I was getting older, my joints started to feel that wear and tear. But then I tried Omega XL, and it changed my life. Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL. and look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years. And Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great. If you're in pain, I want you to know that there is real hope out there. I'm living proof. See the difference it can make in your life, just like it did in mine.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. Buy 1 bottle of Omega XL and get a second free. Plus, we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. A total value of $115. You pay only $49.95 and it ships free. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee. Buy 1, get 2 free. Call or go online right now.
This is how I keep my joints happy.
Omega XL is a powerful natural supplement backed by 40 years of clinical research. Take control of your pain, like Cynthia Bailey.
My knees in particular started giving me pain issues all the way back to my modeling days, from just running through airports, photo shoots. After taking Omega XL, I really started to notice how less stiff I was, especially my knees and my hip. Has Omega XL changed my life? Yes. I barely notice my joint pain anymore. Now I'm like literally sprinting through the airports. My secret is Omega XL.
Pick up the phone and call now to get this exclusive TV offer. Buy 1 Omega XL and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. You'll also get a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. Buy 1, get 2 free. A total value of over $115, all for just $49.95. You save more than 55% and shipping is free. Backed by a money-back guarantee and is not available in stores. Operators are standing by, so call now.
Passover, the Jewish festival of freedom, is taking place this week and the next. President Trump sharing special wishes for Jewish Americans and Jewish people around the world.
Over 3,000 years ago, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob delivered the ancient Israelites out of slavery and brought them into the promised land. It was an amazing period of time, just like today we have an amazing period of time. The journey started with faith in God's word, and it ended with a miraculous march through the Red Sea and an astounding exodus out of Egypt. The world has never been the same. This week, we recall this ancient proof of God's faithfulness and are reminded that with true faith, eternal hope, and the power of prayer, nothing can stop the people of God.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio writing, quote, "As Jews around the world gather to celebrate Passover and remember God's deliverance from slavery in Egypt, we continue to honor the ongoing resilience and hope of the Jewish people today." Some people in Tel Aviv celebrated the Jewish holiday in a bomb shelter yesterday as the country's war with Iran raged on outside. Organizers say the event was hastily put together in 24 hours. It gave people staying in the public shelter a way to take part in the family-oriented holiday. Air raid sirens and air defense systems were repeatedly triggered in the city yesterday. This as Iran fired a volley of missiles around an hour before the start of Passover. Cadbury is celebrating Easter with a giant chocolate egg. As the holiday approaches, the British chocolate maker has been busy putting the finishing touches on the massive treat. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on the chocolate behemoth.
A special creation has taken shape at Cadbury World. It took 2 people to roll out this giant chocolate Easter egg. At 3 feet tall, the Cadbury creation weighs in at 120 pounds. The chocolate maker says it's the largest Easter egg they've ever made.
So Easter and chocolate go hand in hand. And Easter is a really busy time for us here at Cadbury World. So we always want to do something really special at Easter to really join in with the celebrations. So this year, to mark that, we've built the mega mini egg.
While exciting, chocolate itself is getting pricey. Food and farming analyst Chris Iaccarini explains.
What we've seen is that chocolate prices have risen quite dramatically in recent years. So they're up about 2/3 in the past 3 years, and that's in the UK. But these trends we'd expect to be repeated all over the world.
So what accounts for the price increase? Iaccarini says rising costs are largely due to an increase in cocoa prices, not higher oil prices.
One of the largest inputs into the cost of chocolate is the cocoa beans themselves. and it's actually far outweighs the variable cost of energy.
The Cadbury World Mega Mini Egg will be on display for visitors over Easter. But what will happen to the massive sweet treat afterward? Cadbury won't let any chocolate go to waste.
All of our chocolate creations, once we've used them and on display, we melt them back down into our have-a-go zone. So the have-a-go zone is where the guests get to play with chocolate, whether that's doodling, whether that's tempering. And we use that chocolate over and over again.
The Mega Mini Egg will be on display until April 12th at Cadbury World. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
For the first time in more than 50 years, NASA is sending astronauts around the moon. The crew includes 3 NASA astronauts and 1 Canadian astronaut. The Space Launch System rocket roaring to life at Kennedy Space Center, sending the astronauts to space. Let's take a look.
Godspeed, Artemis 2. Let's go.
Heading back to the moon.
3, 2, 1. Booster ignition.
Artemis 2, the first crewed mission of NASA's Artemis campaign, is sending 4 astronauts on a trip around the moon. Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Cook, and mission specialist Jeremy Hansen of the Canadian Space Agency.
This is an exciting time, and it is going to truly test our mettle.
I'm so grateful to those that paved the way for me to be here and for all of us to be here, and it's an honor to potentially inspire the explorers of the future.
It's the first time since 1972 that humans are going to deep space.
We are in a space race. If human beings are going to endure, we have to find another planet to live on. The moon is the first step.
Powered by NASA's new SLS, or Space Launch System Heavy rocket, the Orion spacecraft launches into Earth's orbit.
That thing is 322 feet high, and 300 feet of it or thereabout is all propulsion. So we're literally brute forcing our way into orbit.
Orion will then make a roughly 4-day, 250,000-mile journey to the moon, passing by its far side. At a distance between 4,000 and 6,000 miles above the lunar surface, it is expected to be the farthest any human has ever traveled in space. Orion then returns to Earth for splashdown off the United States west coast.
The golden age of space exploration, there's so many amazing things happening, and we should be proud, all of us.
Competition in the space race is heating up, with China, NASA working toward landing astronauts on the moon in 2028. Beijing has plans for its own lunar landing by around 2030. Here is what NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman had to say.
Competition can be a good thing, and we certainly have competition now. We're going to get back into the business of launching rockets on a regular cadence, and we're going to bring the world along with us.
And a major legal showdown over birthright citizenship as a panel breaks down what's at stake. And even in space, some problems are universal. NASA's Artemis II crew dealing with a toilet issue just hours into the mission. You want to hear more about that after this break.
I was a young dad of 3 amazing kids. I was finally following my dreams. Just when you feel like life is starting to come together, you get kind of hit in the face. I was born with a congenital heart defect and had open heart surgery as a kid. I was supposed to go to the heart doctor once a year, and I finally went. He listened to my heart, and I'll never forget, he sat back and he said, yeah, it's time for open heart surgery, or you risk your aorta rupturing, and that's it. I was scared out of my mind. The night before my open heart surgery, I made a goodbye video for my kids. Be strong. Take care of your mom. I love you guys.
Seeing, all the kids hug him goodbye and hoping that they were going to be able to hug him again.
I love you. But I did make it, thanks to the work of the American Heart Association. So that's why I'm asking you to join me. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help get the next person trained in CPR, get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care, as well as fund the next medical breakthrough like these heart valves that helped save my life. When you give $19 a month with your credit card, we'll send you this special t-shirt to show you're a part of our community of monthly donors.
I'm most grateful that I get to have a husband that I get to grow old with, and a husband that gets to be there for his children.
I believe without the American Heart Association, I would not be here today. If this can happen to me, it can happen to you, it can happen to anybody. Your donation can literally help save a life. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor.
When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities.